We'd like to invite you to Break Forth Paul.
We'd love to have you join us.
We think this will be a fantastic tour for you to be part of.
Break Forth Paul is going to be a very unique experience. Not only is there the incredible opportunity to go on a cruise, a 7-day cruise that's a part of it, and of course, that's enjoyable. That always is in the Mediterranean.
Yes.
Who could beat that, right? And see all those Greek islands. I mean, that's just ultimate, an incredible beauty. But there are places in Greece, as well as other places we will visit, where Paul was. And for instance, Athens is an incredible place. When you stand on Mars Hill and you relive the sermon of Paul, one of the most famous sermons he ever gave.
Exactly.
So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, you know, to see Athens and not the least the ruins there, it's like partaking of world history, right? Athens was such a significant place in the whole era, 2,000 years ago and beyond that. And then it's even more fascinating when you take into account that Paul was there, that he was preaching there, and we know exactly where also. So altogether, it's an intriguing experience to go there.
It truly is, and we're going to go to Corinth as well.
Yeah.
When of course, 1st and 2nd Corinthians are just key Bible passages or scriptures for us, but I mean, there's more to it than that. And so tell us a little bit about
Corinth, Arlen, is really a hugely significant place for a big part of the New Testament. It's not only the 2 letters to the Corinthians, it's also that this was the very place where Paul was ministering for quite some time, and he was also writing letters here. For example, the letter to Romans, That is, maybe the most known letter of all the letters in the New Testament. And I think you can see the letter to Romans that God used Corinth to give Paul many different important things that he could take into the letter.
Yeah, and so when you see Corinth, and part of the value of going on an experience like this is when you're actually on the land.
Right.
When you see the way it's laid out, when you have a sense, the city is not totally attacked, of course, but you have a sense of what it was like at that time. So what do you think we will pick up when we stand on the mountain, when we look out over the water, those kind of things in Corinth?
In Corinth? Well, you will see that Corinth is really like a city that was ahead of its time. It was a city that actually had the worst reputation in all of the Roman Empire.
Right.
But when you stand up on the mountain, as I've done several times, you can see the ruins beneath you. And then you can see seas on both sides. And behind you, you have the peninsula going for far away, mile upon mile. And that meant that this was the narrow stretch that they used to transport cargo or even the ship itself from one part of the Mediterranean to the other. So that meant that Corinth was a place that had so many people coming through every day.
Yeah.
And that is very much like the 21st century. And that was the place, once again, where God gave Paul so many significant eternal messages that have gotten into the Word of God.
Yeah, and one of the things I love about that is, just like we see at Ephesus and how that was kind of an epicenter and a trade route, Corinth was also the same thing.
Sure.
Paul was not only led by God, by his heart, but in a very strategic manner. And so when he goes into a place that is where civilizations, where countries, where merchants are going through, he knows he has an opportunity to have his message shared in vast ways.
Sure.
Because he's not just on an island by himself. He knows it's going to stretch beyond. And it's wonderful to see that and kind of sense that strategy as we consider our own evangelism and our outreach in our communities as well. So we'll get a sense of that.
Yeah, God really led him to the very center, you could say. And at the same time, the city is also a reminder, speaking about our lives, how God can use us even when we are weak, even when we are really afraid. Because it says in the Greek text that when Paul is describing himself, how he felt, how he experienced the situation when God called him to go to Corinth. And he was probably, really filled with fear. He says that he was trembling going into Corinth. But
This is Paul.
This is Paul! This is Paul. So if he was, we can be. And still courage is faith that said his prayers. So he kept on going and God did miraculous things, and He wants to do that in our lives.
Absolutely. And then Philippi.
Oh,
We come to
Philippi,
Philippi.
yes, that is just something else. Philippi is the place that Paul came to, one of his very favorite congregations. He had such a close, intimate relationship with them after the congregation had been founded and 4 years after. And that was a really Roman city. That was a city, of course, where they ministered, and as people say, the first Europeans came to faith. And there's a beautiful spot just outside of the ruins of Philippi, and they are awesome in themselves. That is a small Greek village with a little stream running through it, and the name of the village is Lydia. And an ancient tradition points out this to be the very spot, where Paul went out by the river to meet someone who he could share the gospel with. And so they have a beautiful spot with a beautiful Orthodox church, and they have on the brink of the river, they have made it into just a perfect place for a pilgrim to come to. And that might be the very spot where God opened Lydia's heart, and that was the start of gospel coming to Europe. Rome also, of course, but this was one of the first places that.
Yeah, and that's one of the astounding things that I was hit with is when I first started going to Israel, is we don't think we have a sense of place, and then you come into some of these places, and it's sort of like the layer between heaven and earth is thinner. Now, I don't have a way to rationalize this or justify this, but you get into a place like that in Philippi or Lydia here,
right?
And for some reason, there's this place, or when you're in Ephesus,
right?
And you take a look around, you consider the riots, and and then you see the brothel, you see the debaucherous living and all that, and the struggles that they went in trying to share their faith, with the temple of Artemis and all those things.
Sure.
There's something that just comes alive in your heart, brings you courage and faith and renewal, realizing that the Bible was not written in a vacuum, but in real stuff of life. Yes. Struggles, trials, challenges.
Yeah, and real is a key word, I think.
Real. Absolutely it is. And it comes to life when you go to places like this.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So we're going to go to other places as well, but we would love to have you join us. We really think that it could be spiritually transformational for you. So if God leads you, please join us. We'd love to have you.